Hello and welcome to the Farming Today This Week podcast with me, Charlotte Smith. In this episode, we mark the 25th anniversary of the 2001 foot and mouth outbreak.
Come out next morning, there's always, a gate banging, cow mooing, sheep bleating, something. But it was just dead quiet.
And we look at how prepared the UK is for any possible future outbreak.
We are always relying on that first farmer, first vet, any of us out there spotting that something is not right and reporting it.
First though, all this week on our sister programme Farming Today, we've been talking vets, vital to any livestock business. But as we'll hear, there is a shortage of farm vets. Well, B. Yates is bucking that trend, working with the George Vet Group in Wiltshire, as well as being a board member of the British Cattle Veterinary Association. Marie Lennon went to meet her as she visited a suckler herd at a farm near Malmesbury.
Today we are checking an animal that Ed thinks might still have both of his testicles, and he's not supposed to have his testicles, so we're just going to check whether he does or not. We might take them off, we might not. It depends what the plan with that animal is.
Ed, your relationship with the farm vet, how important is that for the day-to-day running of the farm?
Very important. Things have changed a bit. We have quite an informal, I would say, relationship in the sense that I can send B some pictures or some videos. We can talk about things without necessarily having to always formalise it with a visit. We have the vet, I think, on farm more now than we did 10 years ago, but it's more preventative and more sort of fertility work and footwork and things like that.
It's not for emergencies.
Even illnesses or fouls and things like that. We're doing more stuff to try and prevent that in the first place.
The yoke shuts on their neck and then they're safe in here then. I can get to the back end. If I need to get to the back end, I can open this and get into them at the side. I can come in here, examine head. I can go around the other side. So you can basically get to all sides of the animal. Today we'll be scanning heifers, so I'll be at the back end, scanning and then checking the animal testicles. I mostly spend most of my time at the back end of animals.
And you love it, right? I can
really
tell
love
that
it.
you love your job.
I do love my job and I feel very lucky to be able to do my job. I think sometimes I do have to remind myself of that when it's blowing a gale and you're outside and I'm up to my armpit in the back of a cow. But these farmers are producing our food and we're there helping them do that and ensuring food security, safety of the food chain. That's really important to me, that you're part of something big.
You're a kind of confidant as well, aren't you, sometimes?
Definitely. And there are some farms where I'm there every week or I'm there every 2 weeks. And, I spend more time with some farmers than I do with my friends. People will open up to you and often, I might be the only person that they see that week or the only person that there's 2 hours, to talk to somebody that will listen. And that's really important too. There's a lot of extracurricular chat that goes on that isn't necessarily farming related, being open with each other and leaning on each other when you need to, I think. These girls are all in calf and will be calving starting in the next month.
While these girls are munching away, with your bull, what would you do? Into the race to have a proper good look at him?
Yes, depending on the sort of the age, the size of the animal and the state of the testicles, we would take them off. Ed has provisions here to keep an animal with testicles separate from heifers that he can get in calf. So we decided we're probably just going to leave him because he's quite old actually. So we're going to be kind.
So you're happy. Ed's happy. You're happy with the animals that you've seen today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if you're a farmer and you're trying to run a business, the most easy way to be profitable is by having a herd of really healthy animals. That's what we're doing as vets, really. That shared goal of happy, healthy cows or sheep or whatever is really important.
B. Yates there. Well, while many farm vets like B love their job, as I say, the UK is facing a shortage of vets who want to work on farms. And a survey last year found that more than 40% of large animal vets are considering leaving the profession. Rob Williams is the president of the British Veterinary Association and explains why.
First of all, there's a global shortage of vets. The second reason, unfortunately, is related to Brexit. For the 20 years prior to Brexit, there were reasonably large numbers of vets, probably north of 1,000 a year, coming into the UK to work, predominantly coming from the European Union. And after Brexit, the numbers have dropped off quite dramatically, so it's much fewer than 500 are coming in a year now. And I think in a very general sense, practices that are located in rural and isolated areas find it more difficult to recruit into their practices.
We have seen this trend for a while. So when we talk about the difficulties of recruiting into a farm vet practice, a big animal vet practice, is that to do with money, or is it to do with people choosing to work in a city, for instance?
Some of it is to do with the whole package, if you like. So salary, working time, so the amount of on-call or the kind of working hours, that kind of thing. I think what I would say about farm vetting and farm practices, farm-only practices, where the focus of the practice is entirely on supporting farmers and livestock, vets generally are working in those kind of roles quite happily. Maybe where it's a bit different is in the sort of mixed practitioner role. I think there is a bit of an issue there. So we did some survey work recently of our members, and about 43% of mixed practices are reporting vacancies, and they typically have maybe 2.4, 2.5 vacancies open in comparison to urban practices, maybe where it's 1.5 current vacancies.
Because actually there was a survey last year which suggested that I think it was 48% of vets have considered leaving their jobs.
Yeah, I think that's true, unfortunately, across all types of veterinary. And, in farm vetting, on the upside, when people really enjoy it, they report really high job satisfaction. We've done some survey work and it's 91% good or great job satisfaction compared to 78% for other types of vets. But there are definitely things that push people away. So I think the physical toll it takes on people is an incredibly physically demanding job with long hours, lots of driving time. There's very well documented kind of emotional and stress and mental health tolls.
How do we reverse the situation and get more people to get into it?
When, students start their first year of vet school, I think we need to be much better at articulating the wide range of careers that people can have, because it's not just farm vet practice where there are some difficulties. Our colleagues that work in the government veterinary service, which has a very much rural focus, also struggle to fully recruit. And equally, our colleagues that work in food safety and veterinary public health, so working in abattoirs and that kind of thing, also struggle to fully fill their roles. And I think we could do a much better job of showcasing different veterinary roles and the inherent value, both professional value and value to society of those roles. I think that'd be something we could do.
Rob Williams from the British Veterinary Association. Now, a Home Office decision not to allow sheep shearers from abroad into the UK could threaten animal welfare, according to the National Association of Agricultural Contractors. Shearing is an international business, with skilled shearers travelling the world to work across different countries. Many shearers who come to the UK are from Australia and New Zealand, working in the Southern Hemisphere in the autumn and the Northern Hemisphere in the spring. There are usually between 50 and 75 shearers who are allowed entry into the country each year through a special concession for highly skilled workers who are considered a low immigration risk. But this year, the Home Office has said it will no longer give this special temporary access. The National Association of Agricultural Contractors says the shearers are essential to the farming industry, and they're warning that sheep welfare may be compromised. Kaz Graham spoke to their chief executive, Jill Hewitt, who explained the big difference this relatively small number of shearers make.
Those shearers, although there aren't many of them, we estimate will shear probably 1.5 million sheep this season.
Really? 1.5 million? That's a huge number of sheep for not very many shearers.
Yes, and these guys come in, guys and girls, of course, come in, mainly from New Zealand and Australia. They can shear high numbers of sheep because they're doing this year round. So it's very different to what we do in this country. We've got some really talented, skilled shearers here who can shear a lot of sheep, but we haven't got enough of them.
And it's the sheer number of sheep that we need to get through in the UK, I guess, because it can be difficult to get a gap when you can shear. The sheep need to be dry. You need to have a good weather gap, don't you?
Yes, and we've got about 20 million sheep that need shearing. So it's a big number to get through. And we need shearers that have got experience and are skilled to make sure we're looking after animal welfare as well, and getting the sheep, the wool off, as you say, in that tight weather window that seems to get tighter every year.
There's been a concession allowing these shearers to come and work here in the shearing season for more than a decade now. What reasons have the Home Office given you for ending it, for making this change?
So I think the reason that they're giving us is that for the last 14 years, they're saying we haven't replaced those shearers by a UK workforce. And hands up, we haven't. I'd fully admit that. But it's almost impossible to do that because we've got shearers who are getting older and retiring. And while the British Wool are training new shearers every year, it's only a tiny number of those shearers that will go on to do professional shearing. And it's a very seasonal operation. So you've only got that 3-month period that you can shear. So to be a professional, it's very difficult. You either have to have a different job the rest of the year, or you also need to be travelling overseas, like the guys who we want to come in are doing the other way round.
What discussions are you having with the Home Office about this? I mean, do you think they're likely to budge? They did last year at the very, very last minute, but do you think it's going to happen again this year?
Never say never, Cass. We're talking to DEFRA, who are also working with the Home Office. British Wool, National Sheep Association, NFU, RSPCA have all been supporting this. So there's a real industry will to get this sorted.
And if these professional shearers don't get permission to enter the country, how do you see this year's shearing season panning out?
Well, I'm hoping that the Home Office staff will come and start shearing for us. But if they don't, there will be an opportunity for people to come under a youth mobility scheme. But it's a lot more expensive if you're only coming for 3 months. So it's about £1,000 each to come in. They can only come for 2 years, and there is cost each year they come in. So that is then our only option. Otherwise, we're going to have to somehow try and get those 1.5 million sheep shorn. And inevitably, there'll be some of those that won't get shorn.
And what happens if you don't shear a sheep?
It puts them at risk of maggots and also heat stress. So there are real animal welfare risks if we can't get them shorn, and can't get them shorn before it gets hotter as well this summer.
Jill Hewitt from the National Association of Agricultural Contractors. Dover Port Health Authority has announced its highest ever monthly total of seizures of illegal meat, finding 34 tonnes of it in January, while in Harwich, the Suffolk Port Health Authority intercepted 300 kilos of pork wrapped in foil and stuffed into suitcases. Well, this again highlights the risk of disease getting into the UK and onto farms. The Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Select Committee held an inquiry into the issues around border biosecurity last year. The Liberal Democrat MP and Committee Chair Alistair Carmichael gave us his reaction to the latest figures.
It's alarming, but everything I know and everything I hear about the illegal meat imports through the Port of Dover is alarming. Now, there might be better explanations for this. It might be that we are now actually getting the volume of inspections and a bit better coordination between the different authorities that are involved here that means that we are discovering more of it, or maybe it is just, in fact, that the trade is getting bigger and bigger, and we are now seeing that as a consequence. Either way, I think these figures justify the concern that the Select Committee, the EFRA Select Committee that I chair, have been highlighting for months now, and it does really just illustrate the fact that this is a serious problem, and it's one that the government has got to take seriously and to tackle in a meaningful way. We are not that far away now from the 25th anniversary of the outbreak of foot and mouth, which surely has got to remind us of just how bad the consequences for this can be when we get it wrong.
Alistair Carmichael. Well, DEFRA told us that the government is fully committed to protecting the UK's biosecurity and farming industry. They say they've tightened import rules, increased checks on the border and secured £3.1 million for Dover Port Health Authority this year alone. They add that the strengthened measures are working, with significantly more illegal meat being seized at the border than ever before. And if you're interested in this topic, well, we've made a special programme about it. It was called The Price of Meat. It's still available on BBC Sounds. And as Alistair Carmichael pointed out, this week marks the 25th anniversary of the 2001 foot and mouth outbreak, which caused devastation to thousands of farms across the country. It's believed that outbreak was originally caused by illegally imported infected meat contained in undercooked pig swill. Around 6.5 million animals were culled during the outbreak, with a cost to the UK economy of £8 billion. Alongside the slaughter of animals on farms where there was an infection, neighbouring farms also had their animals slaughtered as part of a contiguous cull in an attempt to prevent the spread of the disease. Oakhampton sheep and cattle farmer Phil Hurd spent the spring of 2001 watching foot and mouth edge towards his family farm. Well, earlier this week, as part of a special edition of Farming Today, marking the anniversary, I went to meet him.
Spring was very typical of this, as like it is this one. It was a very wet spring.
I should say we're sheltering inside because it is wet and cold and kind of dour outside.
Yeah. And we were just literally gearing up to start lambing. We hadn't started lambing. We knew we were going to start in the middle of March. You back in mind, are you going to have to lamb the sheep and then cull the lambs when they're born? That's in the back of your mind.
Even now, this is difficult to talk about for you.
Yeah, it is. It's not what you breed sheep for. It's not. We try to do our best by sheep, but you don't expect to, for your livestock to be killed in the way they were.
So what happened here on your farm?
We could see it coming nearer and nearer. Our neighbours went down, and another neighbour went down, and we knew we were going to get the phone call to say they're going to cull your livestock.
And that was part of the contiguous cull, not because you had it,
we
but
didn't
because you were
actually
next
have it.
door.
Our neighbours did. We were expecting the call the day it came, if you know what I mean.
And when was that?
They took the livestock on this one on Good Friday, and we've got another unit which they took on Easter Sunday.
And they did that on the farm?
Yeah,
obviously.
did that here. This shed was full of dead sheep. The cows, they walk them out, give them a barbiturate injection in the cattle crush, walk them back to the shed, and as they went to sleep in the shed, they would stun them in the shed.
Where were you?
We help with it, just to make sure it's done properly.
That must have been really hard.
Yeah, it is. But it's, you can't run away from it. It's just, you were there, it's your place. You got strangers coming in, handling your cattle, so you just want to make sure you're there and it's done right.
What was it like afterwards?
Quiet. Very, very quiet. Come out next morning, there's always, a gate banging, cow mooing, sheep bleating, something. But it was just dead quiet. Nothing. Then obviously the clean-up starts, and of course we had a big pyre down in the field down there, so then they get the teams come in to start making the pyre, loading the animals on it and that sort of stuff, and then after that you got the mucking out, clean up, disinfecting, which went on for most of the summer.
Did you ever consider not farming afterwards?
Personally, no. I was always going to go back into it. It makes you look at what you're doing, whether you want to carry on the same way, do you want to do things a bit differently. We're still beef and sheep farmers producing suckle calves and fat lambs, but maybe just slightly made life a little bit easier for ourselves and not perhaps chasing a tail quite so much.
Is it important to remember to mark 25 years, or actually would we be better off saying it's behind us, it's done?
It's important not to forget it, and it's important not to forget the lessons, but we very rarely talk about it. We never have done, to be fair. It's one of those things that happened. It's a turning point in your life. We always often refer to pre-foot and mouth or after foot and mouth. Oh, was that before foot and mouth or after foot and mouth? Because it's that big of impact on our lives, sort of thing. But it happened, and it shouldn't be forgotten that it happened.
Phil Hurd on Dartmoor there. If you'd like to hear more from that programme, just listen back to Friday's edition of Farming Today, again on BBC Sounds. Could it then happen again, and how different would the response be? I spoke to Christine Middlemiss, the UK government's chief veterinary officer. She told me lessons have been learned since 2001 and that better animal traceability today would make tackling any new outbreak easier.
When you confirm disease, you, as quickly as possible, want to know where are all the animals that have been on that farm or in contact with animals on that farm. And that enables you to put in the right restrictions really quickly. Things like national movement ban, we would always consider that in the first place, putting in a whole national movement ban. You get one opportunity to go big scale at that first point of confirmation, work out the extent of the disease and then scale back. And that's a much better position to be in than chasing disease. We look very much at vaccination. In our recent exercise, we tested drawing down vaccination and then making that decision, which never ultimately happened in 2001.
You mentioned the exercise there. When was the last test of the system?
So just in November, December 2025, we had exercise Aspen, which was what we call a Tier 2 foot-mouth disease exercise. So all the administrations in the UK played in it, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales and ourselves. And our full department, APHA, played in it, industry played in it. We have a lot of new people who weren't part of 2001 or part of 2007, so it was great experience for them. But it's also very much there to test the systems and how they work.
One of the things that people were really upset about last time round was the contiguous cull, where you culled out the neighbouring farms. And many people will say many of those farms didn't actually have foot and mouth, as it turned out. So surely a vaccine is kind of a no-brainer, isn't it?
Not completely, because you use up resource to vaccinate and you've got several days to protection. So you have to consider, is that the best way to stop spread? Culling is an option. Or assuring yourself that maybe there is no risk pathway to those animals and actually you could leave them standing. So you have to take all of those into account.
We have a national shortage of vets. Within the government agencies, the British Veterinary Association says 25% of vacancies are unfilled. That would be an issue, wouldn't it?
Yes, though currently the vacancy rate is less than that. I had an update this week, but we haven't filled all the posts that we have available. We have plans, and again that was tested in the exercise we had, for prioritising and directing the resources we have available within government, so vets in other departments and agencies, working with private vets through the various contracts we have to pull in vets. And then also there's the International Animal Health Reserve, which is an arrangement with Ireland, US, Canada, New Zealand, Australia to pull in vets as well.
Let's look at some of the risks, and the one that people are talking about a lot at the moment is illegal meat imports. Just this week, we reported on this programme that 34 tonnes of illegal meat have been seized at Dover last month, and those inspectors are not there all of the time by any stretch of the imagination. That confiscated meat isn't tested for foot and mouth, it isn't tested for African swine fever. That's got to be a real worry for you, hasn't it?
Stuff coming in, yes. The actual testing, no. If you take a small bit of meat and test it, it's not representative of the whole meat that's coming in. So we don't think that a negative result effectively helps us. So that's why we don't test it all, because it's not statistically representative. But in terms of meat coming in, yes, absolutely. And that's why we continue to work with the Port Health authorities and Border Force as well, so that they can continue to carry on being the eyes and ears of illicit product.
What are your memories of foot and mouth 25 years ago?
Oh, gosh. I had worked in Cumbria in practice prior to 2001, and when the outbreak was detected there, I went back to work for government in the area. I worked firstly on confirming infected farms, so going out to see people who suspected that they might have disease and working through that. And it was a really traumatic and upsetting time for them and me as a vet, and everybody involved, but a real sense of team spirit and supporting each other. I then worked on, you talked about, dangerous contacts and contiguous culls, when a risk-based approach was brought in, where we could work with the farmer and the local vet to understand the risk to individual farms. And if there wasn't a risk, we could leave those animals. And if there was a risk, we removed those animals. Inevitably, it was really hard, but I come from a farming background and I worked in rural practice, and I wanted to be part of doing something to make it better overall.
Never again, hey, hopefully.
Oh, God, I hope not. It absolutely wouldn't be, because of the ID, traceability, national movement ban, all these things. I don't believe it would ever be on the scale that it was. But we are always relying on that first farmer, first vet, any of us out there spotting that something is not right and reporting it.
The UK's Chief Veterinary Officer, Christine Middlemiss. And that's it from us. I'm Charlotte Smith. The producer is Joe Pesey. And Farming Today this week is a BBC Audio Bristol production.